Hello, Guardian. We are back for another installment of the Hello Guardian podcast. Today, we just want to give you an update on where we've been. Ever since the announcement from Bungie that the fall expansion of Beyond Light was going to be delayed until November 10th of this year, we, as well as many of the player base, became aware that with the increased length to this season, a dry spell was coming to Destiny. And while that this is a case for a big chunk of the community, for those of you who are just getting into Destiny before the fall expansion or have taken a break from the game for an extended period of time due to burnout, I still think there leaves a lot of playability for that specific player base. There's a lot we want to discuss, but before we do, we just want to let you know that if you enjoy any of our content and want to support us, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and follow our socials, which are linked in the description of this podcast, so you're up to date with any and all things Destiny. Now, with that being said, let's get into the show. Oh man, we doing this again? We got another episode? Are we finally back? It's gonna be weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been it's been about a month and a half, a month or so.
Something like that. Content drought, and while it's still not gone totally, it's at least getting better. We can see things that are new. Get to see trailers. Got the Stasis subclass preview, the showcase of everything. That was kind of cool. I liked seeing how the layout is gonna look just from the breakdown of everything. Yeah,
They kind of split the content up because they do have to last 2 full months here at this point. So,
yeah, they're
they
scrounging for whatever.
introduced the 3 subclasses kind of all within a week period. I know my favorite is definitely going to be the Behemoth. That's only because I'm a Titan, but
I think
um
Hunter's gonna be the meta though. The way everything's been looking, it looks like Hunters are gonna be running rampant for sure. And I'll probably play it too, but um
yeah, having all 3 characters will probably end up doing all of them, and each big expansion usually I pop out all of the other characters and I'll get back on them and play them, and then a couple of weeks to a couple months in, depending on if we have like a crew that wants to raid all the time or whatever the case is, I may not need specific classes accordingly too. So I kind of fall off there towards the middle of the expansion.
yeah.
And I just run, Titan predominantly, for that power grind. But outside of that, I mean, it all of it looks pretty good so far. I don't know if you want to go down and kind of break some stuff down for us in terms of what's coming and what's new and how the inventory is going to look and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the breakdown, I mean, just kind of getting a sense of what the UI is going to look like, just to see the different Stasis Spotlight trailers and the breakdown of all the classes. Something that was just kind of cool. I mean, we can kind of go through and talk about it. I think it's kind of just beating a dead horse at this point because we know and we've seen what they do. I think the more interesting thing to talk about is the customization that you have, as well as how supers work together. Because a lot of the times before, it's like you have every class has their own super, but they don't always necessarily complement each other. Like me supering doesn't help your super in any way. And I kind of like how there's play between classes. Like if I'm Warlock and I freeze everything, and if you're Titan, you smash, or if there's a Hunter that slows and you smash. There's a lot of that combination play that I think will be really cool, and I'm interested to see how that works in gameplay because obviously I think Bungie's aware that there's a lot of continuity between these classes now with supers that complement one another, and to see how it'll play in gameplay like raids and things like that. Like if you need to utilize that stuff, like if this raid requires you to use stasis subclasses of like if it's locked to you only using stasis and you having to figure out how to do it at least for the initial 24 hour.
I think that'll be pretty cool. I do know kind of piggybacking off of this complementing each other in terms of all of the classes of Guardian, but you did have things like Radiant Well that you can also stand in. But in terms of the ultimates or the supers, they didn't really play off each other directly in terms of when all 3 of you cast yours, they kind of work together. It does sound like in this that could be more of uh, a little bit more streamlined because generally if you pop a Titan bubble, you just use that bubble to dip in and out. You don't have another super that's going to say, hey, if I use this with the Titan bubble, it's going to make it better. You do have the
Right.
well, but those are the only 2 supers, that as well as tether, which a lot of the time now I guess they do say that you can't overuse them. It's like you can only buff one. It's not like all of them will actually do the buffs together. But this is, I hate to use Anthem as an example, but the 3 weeks that I played Anthem, there were a lot of ultimate abilities that you can prime and then the other person would have to have the exploder, and then you prime it, and then the other person explodes it, and it does double damage, or it does multiple times more damage to the enemy. And I feel like that's what in this case Bungie's going to try to bring to the table is other supers are going to work off of each other, and then yeah, how do I maximize damage if it's not just for crowd control and things like that. So I'm kind of
Right.
curious to see in terms of the raid, it's going to be heavily focused towards darkness.
Yeah.
Are the abilities going to be used? Climbing walls and things. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing about the whole subclass thing in my mind. Like my biggest takeaway is just the depth that it's creating and allowing you to have to work together even more. It's like not only do you have to, raid together, or if you're running things that require teamwork, but now how you cast your supers and how you maximize your efficiency clearing ads or clearing majors or whatever, it's helpful. So I think this will kind of be interesting to see how this plays out. And the whole stuff regarding aspects and fragments for me, like I read it and I understand what it's saying, like how certain slots work and how you can put certain fragments inside of each aspect. But I really just need to see it and play. I need to like see it and use it because whenever I read that kind of stuff, it always gets a little confusing to me. See, like, because they're only showing you limited things, right? It's not showing you the entire aspect list of what you can do and all the combinations you can make. So that's something that I'm curious to see how that plays out because what I'm assuming it works kind of just like artifacts, how the artifacts have been working, where you choose whatever buff that you want to and attach it to your class piece or legs or whatever it is. So I think it's just a more streamlined way to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty much like adding mods to your subclass almost
Yeah,
is what I kind of look
yeah,
at
you're
it
modding
as,
your
where
subclass.
let's just say you apply it. I didn't read too thoroughly through aspects and how they work, but it's almost like you're adding something that may give you plus 5% freeze time, or who knows at that point. I'm kind of with you in this boat where I have to have it in front of me, and I have to hop into a world, and I have to obtain these things, and I have to apply them and really read through them. And I'm sure they will be there's tons of videos out there at that time when this new expansion drops of what the best combinations are and how to find certain things. So all of that's kind of up in the air and how all that works right now, but I'm kind of curious to see custom builds and what the top of their class is going to be and things like that. That's kind of exciting. I know in the original Destiny they had something where you can modify your subclass a little deeper than what you can now. So I don't know if they're trying to go back to that with kind of an updated mod process instead, where you have to obtain them through the world or through bounties. But I guess we'll have to see here.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I really don't have too much else to say on the whole stasis stuff. I'm excited to use it, and I just want to see how it's gonna play, just to get on with it already. Should have already had the
Yeah,
game by now.
I feel like if they don't, if they show too much of it, I feel like
Yeah,
it'll almost burn you out in a way that when it does come out, you're already like, man, I knew all this stuff already. That's why, like, it's cool to show with what they did. They got a little bit of the content out there, but I don't like to have an overly saturated drop of content that kind of already tells us what the game is going to be played, or how it's going to be played, or what it's going to be like. So I think they're doing it smart. They kind of gave you a glimpse of the three subclasses for each character, and yeah, we would be playing the game what in a week and a half at this point if it was
yeah,
out still. Kind of like piggybacking off of what you just said there. Yeah, I didn't laugh or giggle because it's kind of depressing in a way to know that I could have been playing the game very very shortly and kind of
yeah,
experiencing this stuff. But we will have to wait. We are going to get Festival of the Lost. That's going to be your first Festival of the Lost. They are going to have some new sets for that as
yeah. The
well, so that
leaks,
looks
the
pretty
leaks
cool.
are cool, man. If anyone hasn't seen the leaks, I'm sure we could put that on screen in the video. But yeah, I think that's kind of cool. And I was interested because I didn't play Festival of the Lost last year, but I looked at the ornaments for the classes, and I'm like, these ones way better this year.
I really
So
hope they're
that'd be
ornaments
cool.
too and not pieces, because
Oh,
they've
no,
always
no,
been
they're
pieces, I
ornaments.
think.
There was, I forgot who
That's
I
what it said, right?
watched that did it, but, like, they had it on. I think you could see it on Light GG when they had it, but they're actual ornament pieces that you equipped to your armor. So that's really cool.
That's cool, yeah,
Um,
so you can always use them. But yeah, I did like
but
them. They all looked
yeah,
really good.
yeah, I think yeah, I think it's just a nice thing, and just tying it back to the whole idea of them trying to streamline, you know, how we look, because I think that's, like, one of the most important things. It's not how powerful you are, but, like how you look as well, because I can have really great gear that is really specced out well, but I hate how it looks and it doesn't make my Guardian look the way I want it to. So the whole idea of transmog and now adding this, while it's still purchasable, I think through either silver or bright dust, I think it's just nice to be able to have that. So yeah,
I agree, and I hope that they will eventually bring back things like that to raids. Back in D1, they had the last 3 or 4 raids. They kinda had armor sets as well, and, having ornaments for those, that'll actually be pretty cool if they have them animated and things like that, but, I'm not too stoked about the new armor sets that are gonna be coming to, in last week's
yeah,
TWAB. They had the
yeah. They're
Gambit,
meh.
they had the Vanguard. Yeah, it's just very generic and kind of like what you were just saying about the way your Guardian looks. We're gonna be starting off this whole big DLC with probably like we were in Shadowkeep, where the first day you're constantly fetching blue gear to up your power level by 1 or 2 each gear you find, and the power grind is cool and everything. I enjoy that, but it is about the way you look to a specific point, and I know we're going to probably be a couple days of just looking like blue armor sets, and that's what this new armor set to me looks like, with just kind of applying the playlist logo on them, the Gambit logo, the Vanguard logo, the Crucible logo.
Yeah,
I just, and all of them had the same look. Like if you look at the chess pieces, they all had that knife there, and I'm like, that's maybe a hunter thing, but why is there a knife on the warlock? Like that doesn't, it just didn't look right to me. So I
yeah.
don't
I'm looking
know.
at it now.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the thought behind that was. Again, I'm not a designer, and I give props to them all working from home still. But I just it looks almost lazy. If it's, I hate using that word because I know they're not lazy, but it's just the design on it is like, are you giving us blue armor, or is this legendary armor that we're chasing? And in fact, I believe it is legendary. So I know we'll get some stuff out of the season pass again, kind of like we've done seasonal things. So maybe
Yeah.
if we get cooler armor sets out of there that kind of match, uh, you know, a couple things to come, maybe, but who knows?
If you're starting the season though, so like if we're maxed out 1060 and we start like with the armor that we have with our exotics or whatever, like can that not be used when the expansion starts?
It
Like is
can,
that
but
okay?
yeah, it can. But the first things you'll start getting, the first pieces you will get are going to be like 1061 to 1065, and more than likely, unless they're changing it, it's usually green to blue, or it's
Yeah.
usually bluish, and then you'll start to get the purple more towards you hit that soft power cap, which
Yeah, just for the power grind, just to get you to whatever it is. And how big is the jump usually on expansion? Like
in the
before like the raid launches and stuff, like because
yeah the
obviously the raid is at a higher level, but
it's gonna be, yeah, and that's gonna be higher depending on when it is. I know I took Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday off. We'll check to see at that time if the raid will be that Friday. It usually is, but power grind in terms of every event you do, if you do a story mission, if you open up a public event chest, I mean, all of these things are going to drop you usually 1 to 5 power level in the very beginning, if I'm not
mhm.
mistaken. I know for Shadowkeep it was like 1 to 3 to start, and I think they changed it, but that was already a year ago, believe it or not. So, yeah, it was a little grindy there in the very beginning, and I know you caught on a couple months after that too. So at that time they already kind of changed the way that you can get things. So I know that your experience in March was a little different after the
Right.
expansion. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and that's another thing that I'm learning too, because there's a majority of the stuff that's like current or that I've dealt with. Like I understand how it works, I know how it plays. Now, not only am I starting the game when the expansion drops, but then there's subclass and the gameplay is a little bit different and how they, have different things and it's implemented. So like there's going to be a lot of new things that happen all at once, and I'll be learning it obviously as well as other people. But um yeah, there's just a couple more things that I haven't experienced before. One being kind of like the whole, power hungriness of, yep, starting, let's just boost as high and quickly as possible.
that's what the main focus is to start too. It's doing the story missions, but
Yep,
you also
grind it
don't
out.
want to feel like you're blowing through the story campaign. There's times I'll do 1 or 2 missions and I'll go off, and if there's a side mission like, hey, you can get a specific weapon to do this, and I'll go off, and instead of grinding all of Tuesday, which we're going to do anyways, I'm sure,
Yeah.
it's, you kind of have to deviate a little bit on your path and take a couple detours to not blow through the story, because that's what makes it feel like it's too short, is just those other players like us that are going to play through it for a week, and probably not sleep much. I know Tuesday to Wednesday I'll probably get a maximum of 3 hours, but It's just I don't want the story to go by too quick, and that's part of it is just the power grind in the very beginning is
Yeah.
usually going to be your number one priority. So
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. But going back to the whole, the look of what the armor looks like. One of the cool things that we did see in the Stasis trailer that everyone's talking about right now is that new sniper rifle, the Adored, right? Beloved 2.0, whatever you want to call it.
yep.
Um, and I thought that was kind of cool and how they were explaining the different weapon ornaments for the gun, and I think this is kind of going to be a cool thing for pursuit weapons that come season by season or whenever they drop them. But yeah, the set of ornaments that show the Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit. Crucible one I think is the best looking one besides the default one. I might even rock the default one.
Of
But
the sniper rifle, right?
yeah,
Is that what you're still talking about?
yeah,
Okay,
the sniper. Yeah.
gotcha.
So yeah, the pursuit weapons because they were saying like the goal is to have a pursuit weapon per season, and it's quest focused. So like the idea that you have to choose, between which model you want based on like the game modes you most likely play, and I think that's kind of cool just to be inclusive for all players because not everyone that plays Crucible likes to play Strikes or Gambit. And I kind of like how they do that.
Yeah, you do have the opportunity of getting all 3 as well. Once you complete one path, you do have the chance of going back and getting the other one. So their goal they have said in this Schwab even on the 10th was that they're trying to take a lot of the cosmetics like weapon ornaments out of the Eververse store and allow you the ability of earning them. Usually the
Yeah,
store what they've said is going to be for like emotes and ships and ghosts, things of that nature, not I don't even know if the not the catalyst, but the skins for the exotic weapons are going to be done through there. So, are there going to be new missions or new paths on getting that? Right? Is that the end of the catalyst? Is you also get the skin for it? So we'll kind of see there because that's what they're hinting to is that ornaments are not going to come out of Eververse anymore. But I'm kind of with you though in terms of the Crucible one. I do like it. Well, I just want to talk a little bit about this gun real quick because I am a social media deviant when it comes to people saying things that are a little outlandish. And there's a lot of people that are saying that there's no problem with keeping the exact same weapon model, just adding a scarf. Like I know we're going into the cold weather, but is that why we get the scarf on the Beloved? Is that's the only gun we're going to take into the cold and we have to wrap it up in case it gets cold? That's literally it's got the gems in there and that to me, I'm very passionate about this stuff. I'm okay with reskinning different events and like, right, you're bringing back specific activities, maybe, or you're bringing back the Vault of Glass, right? You haven't really experienced that yet with the full raid team, so I'm cool with the quote unquote reskin there. But this is the same. This is the same gun. The scope is different, but this is the identical weapon outside of that. So I just want really your thoughts on there because if you go over social media or if you ever seen any tweets that I tweet, you'll kind of notice that. Um,
yeah, and this is something we alluded to before, and this was something that was really discussed about on like the reason behind the sun setting, and we all know like this was the biggest topic for a while is like is sunsetting good, is it bad, and we're just trying to put our finger on it on how we deal with it. Like, are we okay with it, or we just kind of like whatever, I'm still going to play the game, I don't like it, but whatever. And my argument at the beginning of that was people invest their time into the game and they want to play this game. But the problem is when you force out or you close the ability to use those weapons in certain areas of the game, it just makes it feel kind of bad, especially if you're a newer player and you just got your mountaintop or whatever. Mountaintop's a whole nother thing, but just weapons that you take the time and invest in. What I don't like about this, while yes, obviously it's a different gun, it has a different name or whatever, it looks slightly different. I I really need to just see how it plays, just on how balancing changes are going to be for PvE and PvP. If the scope is going to be different, that was something that was being talked about as well. As when the gun is scoped in, does it perform differently? If it's a closer or farther zoom, yeah, it's weird, especially with this gun because that's I think that's the biggest topic on people's minds, especially from people that are very PvP focused. Is well, what's the new sniper going to be? Like, that's, like, the real thing because 'cause I'm losing Revoker, we're losing Beloved, and we don't know what's next. And I don't like Eye of Soul. I think the zoom's a little too much, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm kind of there with you as well. I didn't mind the primary sniper rifle because I was a big revoker guy, not mainly because of the ammo coming back to you, but I just like the scope and the snappiness of it.
Yeah, it's just
And it gave
clean.
Yeah, and it also gave me the ability of using energy weapons that I preferred as well. But this, yeah, I mean, my opinion on this, I know it's not going to be a popular one, but I kind of like I said, like it's obvious of what you're doing. Now, if this gun is part of the lore in a way that would make sense, I mean, I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with guns coming back, right? Hawk Moon's going to be coming back and things like that. But when it comes to this, you're literally just told us that, hey, you're going to be sunsetting these weapons and we're going to be earning new different weapons. They did mention that they would bring back other weapons amongst the process, and I may be overthinking this completely and thinking this is going to be one of the only good sniper rifles because the archetype from this comes all the way back from D1. I think it was either not a long goodbye because that's this one, but there is a longbow synthesis gun that looked exactly like this and played exactly like this gun looks and feels. So they keep the archetype alive, but it's just you're just wrapping up beloved, man. Like you could have done a little bit
Yeah.
more than that in my opinion, but
Yeah,
I don't
so
know.
yeah, maybe it'll change. Maybe like they'll change the look of it, or maybe they'll explain in lore why it looks very similar to Beloved. If it's like a whole Thorn and Lumina kind of thing, where it's like the polar opposite of a gun. I don't know. I don't know how they'll spin it, but I think it's like we want to see all of it, and again, we're just waiting for all of this stuff to drop so we can have an opinion. This is again all speculation, and we're just going off of what we're seeing. But impressions, they speak, they mean something. So in this instance, just seeing the gun, I'm super excited about it. I'm like, ooh, like even seeing in the trailer, like that, like something that we all notice, and not just us, but probably every Destiny fan when they saw, the Warlock staff where he like shot out the thing and froze the guy and pull out the sniper. I'm like, what's this? So,
Hype
yeah.
building, for
Yeah,
sure.
no, you really are. You really are. So I don't want it to be something silly where they're just reskinning. Like, I don't know if you saw, I think Astacross, you retweeted someone that like photoshopped the scarf on a mountaintop.
uh,
But it's just
yeah.
like I hope that's not what it is. Yeah.
Nah, and I think in that photo it was called the cliff top something or something
The
or
big
another, and
cliff
I'm
top.
yeah, big cliff top. So, I know they're keeping that gun in the past because they're actually going to be tuning the sandbox for that one, per the Schwab as well. But I
Yeah.
just yeah, we'll check to see. I mean, are there going to be different perks and things that come with this season? That's usual. So we'll check to see maybe if there is a perk that you can get on this gun that you weren't able to get on Beloved when it was a gun. So um, yeah, I'll leave it at that because I have a lot to say about that, and I don't want to bore everybody with negativity and such. But
Yeah, it's just
that's
a
just
little
my opinion, of
skepticism, but
course.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. It
yeah,
makes
yeah. It's just my opinion, and I know that everyone's gonna think a little different. All of us pay $60 for this stuff, so I get it. All of us have our own opinions, and that's great. But yeah, in terms of the new armor sets, and I know we kind of talked about that already in terms of what they look like for each of the playlists. Not too thrilled with that. Although every year, I kind of think that you also mentioned that to me prior to the show, is that every year we should be getting new vendor sets,
yeah. Yeah, the
right?
vendor sets should be a yearly thing as well as and they're saying the same thing with trials now. So on top of there being new things in trials, I thought one of the things that were really cool that was mentioned that I know we talked about before, but I never got to experience was adept weapons and how adept weapons are coming to trials. So from a lot of what's been going on of what they're implementing into Beyond Light, which is kind of like a like it seems like a Destiny 3. Like they're taking really good things that they've honed and they've made really well, and they're taking older content or older themes of things that players really liked, and they're putting it into the game. And that was something that we talked about on an older episode was like why not bring back adept weapons? What would that do if you added those to the mix?
It gives you something to grind for, is exactly what it does already. Just thinking about it, in terms of trials, I know when we were popping on and playing, we only played to get specific pieces of gear. And after you got that gear, what's really the point of playing if you're not doing triumph stuff? So
Right.
this is going to give us roles on. Hopefully, they'll bring cool armor too. Kind of like you said, each year they're going to be bringing new trials armor, and I believe we're getting some new stuff this year because it is a new year. So in November, so we'll kind of check to see how that goes, and then kind of go from there. But I know you haven't gotten the Traveler's Chosen yet, but it's probably going to be something that you're going to grind for this weekend.
Yeah.
what have you read about it so far? Because, I've had a little hands-on with it, but what have you read about it and what kinda stands out and, all that kinda stuff?
Just very brief over the lore, just kind of like seeing how each of the vendors on every planet are kind of combating like what's going on. They're just trying to make a nice marrying of ideas of an exotic that will you'll be able to wield and use, but also close the storyline of this older destiny and going into Beyond Light. So I haven't read too much into it, but I know there is like a like everyone's doing their part, right? Like everyone's contributing to stopping whatever's going on. That was kind of the gist of what I got of it.
Each planet, yeah. So throughout the quest, again, at this point when we launch this episode, most of you guys are probably had a shot at the quest line, but just tiny bits of lore through it is that Sloane is going to be through the process of um, trying to fight the darkness on Titan herself. She's going to try to head on the darkness, which I don't think is a good idea, but. Asher Mir is going to collapse the Pyramidion, so he doesn't want any of the darkness to get any of the golden age items and artifacts and things that brings, as well as brother Vance. He kind of mentioned entering the infinite forest again. Anna Bray appears to be the only one that's going to be joining us, so with Elsie Bray being the exo stranger and all of this coming to Beyond Light, there has to be a connection between Anna and her old sister, who is now an exo, of course. So we'll check to see with what kind of goes on there. I know at the end of last season we had a live event, so who knows what the live event is going to show, if we even have a live event for this season. Um, my idea of that would be something along the lines of kind of watching each of the planets or watching the darkness kind of invade the planets somehow, some way. Um, and then kind of just maybe just destroying the planets. And I know all of this content is going into the content vault, but how would they possibly bring this back in a storytelling scene unless they're just going to say, hey, here's playlists to do these missions, and it's just a throwback. So uh,
Right.
I'm kind of
What
curious to see what's going on with that.
Yeah, I thought, and I know, and again, this time gap is going to be a little bit awkward, but that would have been really cool. If you're like looking at the actual map of the destinations and you see in the live event that these places, like they go away and they're no longer accessible. But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, there's definitely going to be a time delay from when that end event happens to when the actual new season starts. Like, it's not going to be a clean thing. It's not going to happen instantaneously where it's like, yep, you do this and then you just play right into the new stuff. Obviously, there's going to be like downloads but that'd be kind of cool if it was like a seamless kind of transition. That would be
I
like
know,
hella cool.
yeah, it'll be a week delay, and that's the
Right.
thing is there going to be a week before that they kind of update, because they used to do that every expansion in D1. They would a week before would add something to the game, or let's just say Fallen invaded Venus all of a sudden, where these new fallen ships that you've never seen before are now invading Venus, and then to kill them you would get a key, and that key
Hmm.
would actually unlock something inside Prison of Elders when the expansion launched, and you would stack up on these keys, and no one knew at the time what the keys were for until the expansion launched. You're like, man, I have this stack of keys, I'm glad I did this, so they have the opportunity of doing cool live events like that. They've kind of done them in the past, not so live-ish, I guess, but I'm kind of curious to see with what really happens there. And there really hasn't been much in terms of the current storyline because there's been kind of a
Tree hasn't
delay.
been growing either. I've been
And
watching it as well. It hasn't been
it's just,
growing.
yeah, it's kind of still with where it's been 8 weeks ago or so. So when that storyline catches up, I mean, who knows?
Yeah. And I just think about it as well. Obviously, it's in hindsight, but if it were to drop initially when it was set to drop, which is what, the 22nd of this month, so in 10 days from now, is when it was looking to
Mhm.
drop. Yeah, just to kind of see how the content would have been if there was like um if it still felt okay, or if it still felt like a little bit of a content drought. Because I still think we would feel it. It just wouldn't be as severe as going an additional month and a half. That's the biggest thing. And it's still crazy to me that they're still 2 months away.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of seemed to be creeping for quite some time, and then it's here, and now we have to wait a little bit more. But thankfully, we're actively playing a little bit of COD here and there, so
Yeah, trying
it's
to
been
break
holding
it
us
up a little
over.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been holding us over. That's the whole point of gaming. I feel like is if you put all your eggs into one game, you only play that one game, you're going to be the sufferer of drought in the worst ways too. So you just have to find something else to do or play, man. That's really
yeah,
all
for
all
sure.
it comes down to for the drought. So
For sure. But again, once this content drops and once Beyond Light is official, like that'll be the only thing that we play. We'll have everyone back on. And I miss those times. Miss playing with everyone. Everyone's logging on. Like, hey, what are we doing tonight? We're running this. Yep, cool. Let's go. Just the routine of it. And
Yeah,
I just, it's what I really enjoyed. Like having to, log back in. It's Tuesday morning. It's like, yep, have you ran a Scourge yet? It's like, nope, haven't ran it yet. It's got to get Anarchy today.
that's the best
And
part of
that was
Destiny.
fun. That's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Hmm.
So when that's kind of removed and you miss that, it changes the game for me. So that's kind of why I do enjoy that grind a little bit more because it keeps the game fresh. It keeps it interesting until you do achieve it, and then you jump onto the another thing that you're really looking to get.
So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that stuff, but
Yeah,
I
no,
do
not at
miss
all.
that as well. Each Tuesday you kind of say, hey, what's going to be in the store, and what skins are there, and what's the powerful drops, and it's going to be a little bit different now that the expansion is going to be out. It's going to Tuesdays are going to feel a lot different for sure for the first 3 weeks, but
Oh yeah,
I guess we'll see. And I'm just a little excited about the other storyline with it because, again, try not to forget it's not just about the darkness. There's another seasonal storyline that is going to have Prince Aldrin, and it's
yeah.
not announced yet. There's a lot of speculation, but there's been a lot of hints towards leaks that do say he's going to be coming back. And is he actually going to be joining the Hunter Vanguard finally? It's in the lore. It just has to happen now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because that was a photo inside one of the updates, right? It was like a
It
screenshot of the actual page,
It was the triumphs that changed, and
the
in the
triumphs.
triumphs, they took out all the old ones, and in one of the TWABs, they did kind of list what's going to be gone in terms of triumphs, but it does have his emblem from an old D1 screenshot. They had, I think it was artwork prior to them actually solidifying the first story, where he was known as the Crow, and I don't know in terms of the lore what the Crow actually symbolizes, but it had something to do with him and him being able to resurrect or something along the lines of that. I would have to go back and actually read it. But inside the triumphs, it had his emblem that was on his chest plate there, and that's one of the emblems there. So, is that going to be a seasonal thing? Is that going to be a main storyline? Because they did say in this previous season that this end season now that we're currently in is going to culminate all of what happened, which to me is the end of D2 and the beginning of D3.
Yeah.
Obviously, not literally, but in terms of story.
Yeah, and in terms of, like, how bare bones it's being stripped, like, it feels like it, even though it's not. We're not starting from fresh, but, like, we kind of are at the same time. So, but I
That's what
think
I
it's
missed.
smart. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's smart, and I'm excited, and I think that it'll allow us to play the game a lot longer before we have that feeling of, "Oh, what's next?" Because I think when the game has content and things that people haven't explored yet or mastered, like, everyone is in love with the game, and it's like a well-oiled machine. So,
We just have to wait another month and a half,
that's
and
it.
that's it,
But I
and
think
then
the
it'll be
most
here.
important thing that we do here is continue to produce content. So newly things that we do have, whether it's like updates on the game, like in TWABs, or if there's some leak that drops, it is things that we will bring to you because we are staying up to date on this game, even though we're not always playing it as much as we used to at this point due to the content drought. We still want to provide that content.
And I believe that's all that we have for today, man.
All right, guys. Well, McCadley, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna peace out of here, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Enjoy your week, guys.